Please welcome.
Ooh.
Is that going to wake you up? Good morning. Please welcome New York State Senator Jeff Klein.
Thank you, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be here because certainly each and every event that I do is very important to me and very important to the community. But certainly this certainly has a special place in my heart, our Black History Month breakfast. This is the 20th year that we sponsored this event. That's a tradition. And it's also one of the first events I did. I took office in the Assembly 20 years ago, and actually that was 1995, and the second week of February, we were able to sponsor this event.
No, you turned it off. Turn it back on. No, he just turned something off.
Sure, you do this, you hold this.
No, I got it.
I'll do it, you hold this.
Turn it. You just turn the speaker off.
Try the speaker.
You put the speaker.
That one.
That one back over that you just turned.
Retrace your, yeah. Listen.
Testing. That's good, right, everybody? Okay.
No, feedback. No.
Testing. That's perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry for that. But certainly 20 years is something that is always extremely special. And I love when we create traditions in our community. And it's something that's very important to me because when I look around this room, it's many of the same people who've been coming here year after year. And just as important, it's the same people who have been dedicating themselves to our community year after year. I think everyone knows the significance, and certainly besides being 20 years, this is also the 50th anniversary celebrating the life of Malcolm X. He died almost 50 years to the day. So this has great significance because everyone knows that African American History Month, Black History Month is very special. Because what it does is it allows us to celebrate those who came before us. It allows us to celebrate those who contributed so much, not only to Black history, but really to our nation. And I think whenever we have a celebration like this, I think we all have to recognize, wherever we came from, whoever we are, we certainly have great significance in remembering that. Because the people who came before us were the giants who brought us here today. You know I'm very proud of the history of my grandparents who came here from Hungary. They were Holocaust survivors. And I don't think a day goes by where I don't remember them and what they went through and what they taught me. And again, they came here, their entire family was wiped out in a madman's idea of really a world order. They started anew, they came to this country, and when I asked my grandparents, why they didn't have any family members, why they didn't have any aunts, any uncles, they used to tell me the story. But nonetheless, they always honored their memory. They always remembered the horrors, but they always moved forward. They always moved forward in a way that each and every one of us do. And it really reminded me of a story. I was reading an old article in the New York Times. And there was a very famous time when the liberation of the concentration camps. It was at the end of World War II. The Germans were clearly defeated. They were very, very concerned that individuals would somehow uncover what a lot of people didn't know were the concentration camps. So they did everything they could to try to burn down some of them. But the way it was working is the Americans were coming from one side, the Russians from the other, and we kind of got there first. And one of the notorious and one of the first concentration camps, Buchenwald, was significant to me. That's where many of my family members, great aunts and uncles, relatives of my grandparents, their life was taken. And there's a story very few people know, that the individuals who actually liberated that camp. The first people that were American soldiers, that those Holocaust survivors who somehow managed to survive the horrors of a concentration camp was the all-black 761 Tank Battalion. This was one of the 761 Tank Battalion. If you think about it for a moment, here's an all-black unit. They served under Patton, General Patton, so you can only imagine, what they did, what they saw. These were individuals who were discriminated against, even in the United States Army in World War II. But here they were, fighting for their country. Here they were, risking their lives. And here they were, liberating a concentration camp filled with European Jews. These were individuals, if you think about it for a moment, they were the grandkids of slaves. And they were liberating Jews who never saw an African American before, never saw a black person before. And these were men that were brave. These were men who dedicated their lives for their country. And these were men that, even though they went through an entire war as one of the only black battalions, they cried. They shed tears when they saw the horrors of this concentration camp. So I think it's always important to remember all of these connections. Each and every one of us here have those kinds of connections. We're all really one. And I always say this, that it's a very simple truth, that each and every one of us, especially here in Bronx County, which I'm proud is probably the most diverse county of any place there is, we're either going to sink or swim together. So I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we work together, we lead together, and we govern together. And that's really what it's all been about for me. I always try to do something that's very, very simple. Help the many and not the few. Because I think we really need to ask ourselves an awful lot of questions. African American History Month is a time to celebrate. But it's also a time to question. And the questions we have to ask is why every time there's a catastrophe in our society, it has a disproportionate impact on African Americans. Why is it when we're in a foreclosure meltdown that African Americans are 4 times more likely to be in foreclosure? Why is it whenever there's high unemployment rate or an economic downturn, African Americans are more likely to be unemployed? When we talk about the issue of digital divide and making sure every young person has access to a computer, why is it that schools of color are less likely to have those tools? These are the things I think we have to ask ourselves. These are the things that we always have to question. And that's why I think moving forward, I put forth an agenda this year, which I think puts New Yorkers first. It's called Invest New York. As I said before, it helps the many and not the few. It helps build more affordable housing. It helps build more middle-income housing. And yes, we want to make sure that our public housing is second to none. We also want to create jobs. Not just low-paying jobs, but good jobs. Jobs that have a career track. Jobs that you're actually trained to move ahead in a company instead of going from one job to another. It's a program that wants to help our working families, recognizing that we need paid family leave, recognizing that we increased the minimum wage to $9, but we can do a lot better than that. There's a lot of things we need to do, especially for our seniors. Our senior citizens are really being priced out of being able to retire here in New York. I think it's incumbent upon us to put forth bold policies to make sure that they can live out their golden years in comfort and dignity. We're never going to accomplish all these things unless each and every one of us work together. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you. We have some great honorees. We have a very special guest speaker today. But I think it's worth mentioning that, again, it's important to always remember that we need to work together. We need to share each other's stories. We need to really share each other's pain when that happens as well. So I think to sort of close, I think it's worth mentioning what the great Martin Luther King said, that the only way we're going to reach the top of the mountain, the only way we're ever going to see the light, is if we do it hand in hand. Thank you all very much.